Welcome to Out Loud, the queer creative podcast presented by the Q LGBTQ Creative Network and hosted by Kenny Fitz.
We acknowledge that the Out Loud podcast is recorded in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is part of the Peace and Friendship Treaties, agreements that remind us to build relationships based on respect and care. We also acknowledge the African Nova Scotian communities who have lived here for over 400 years and continue to shape the culture and history of this province. We stand in solidarity with both Mi'kmaq and African Nova Scotian communities, and we encourage our listeners to reflect on their own relationship to the lands and communities they live in.
You know that feeling when you find your people? That's what Waves Magazine is all about. Waves Magazine is more than a publication. It's a platform for change. For over 40 years, we've uplifted LGBTQ voices from Atlantic Canada, sharing stories that resist, reflect, and inspire. From community voices and queer culture to art, activism, and everything in between, Waves is here for you. We keep you connected with event listings, Pride Festival calendars, and the incredible Halifax Rainbow Encyclopedia, a living archive of our rich queer history. Whether you're new to the region or have been out and proud for decades, Waves is your go-to source for information and is here to reflect your story, your identity, and your community. Read, share, celebrate. Because visibility is activism, and queer media is a force for change. Find your pride on the page at waves.ca. Waves Magazine. Proudly queer, proudly Atlantic, proudly ours.
Welcome back to Out Loud, everyone. And now we are joined by one half of the dynamic duo that is Pillow Fight. And I have with me the incredible Art Ross.
Hello.
Welcome to Out Loud.
Thank you, Kenny. I'm very happy to be here on this very beautiful, rainy Friday afternoon with
And
you.
we're in Nova Scotia. You never know what's going to happen, right?
It's so true. Makes me want to just like crack open a beer, eat some lobster, but
And you know, we've got some really interesting things in Nova Scotia, one of which is music. Of course, we're going to talk about that. But Nova Scotia, as part of Atlantic Canada, has such a unique little things that are around. If you ever, you know, folks, if you're listening, you must travel the province to find all of the wine, first of all, but all of these really neat little places in Nova Scotia. There's lots of diamonds here. There's lots of like really cool places.
oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. Whenever we like travel or tour, people are like, "Where are you from?" And we're like, "Oh, Nova Scotia," and they're like, "What?" We're like, "No, there's so much incredible art and music in Nova Scotia, but nobody's really heard of us because we're just like this tiny little province."
We're also the kind of people that don't go out and, you know, bang a drum to draw attention to us.
Oh
We
yeah.
just assume either people have heard it or maybe they just don't care. But we're going to do it anyway. You are here not only because you make incredible music and because I am such a fanboy, but also because you're going to be part of Outfest, which is the queer theater festival, which now has music stage and has dance involved and comedy. That happens here in Halifax in April. And it's one part of, I think, a continuously growing population of queer culture here, especially in Nova Scotia, but in the Atlantic region, things are kind of changing and whatnot. And it's so cool to be able to have that. Now, in my mind, this may not be your mind, but in my mind, you and Aaron Green, who is the other half of Pillow Fight, are incredibly famous and popular everywhere. And are, to be honest, like it's how I feel. And I think I just manifest things into being. In this province especially, you are loved. People know who you are. They love your music. And I think that there's a deep respect for who you are as musicians.
Wow. Thank you for
Again,
saying so.
this may just be me. I don't think it is. But being part of Outfest to me really is a signifier because I do feel as though from a queer music perspective, you and Aaron, are doing such great work, and I think groundbreaking work. So to
Amazing.
have you as part of that festival, I think is just chef's kiss kind of thing.
That's
So
so wonderful. Thank you for saying so.
Isaac Mule, good work.
Oh, we love
Creative.
Isaac. What a
Yes,
babe.
he's the creator of the festival itself, but also the curator of it. And I think that, new folks who have never had a chance to kind of check out your music, which shameful, but also, we're all busy, but I think we'll become just entranced with
Oh,
what you create and what you present. So that being the hugest intro to a question,
whoa.
I
Okay.
know, Em. How are you feeling about being part of Outfest?
Whoa. Okay. Yes. I always say that you can't take the politics out of the artist. And, I was talking to another artist the other day, and they just didn't feel like they wanted to, quote unquote, put themselves in a box like that. And I think Outfest is like a perfect example of how boxes and identifiers and collective groups actually really help instead of hinder. And I think of like, Aaron and I are so lucky that we get to do lots of festivals, whether they are, genre based or community based or whatever. We're always just lucky that we always find community because we are so openly queer and trans fronted. And so wherever we go, we find our community. Something like Outfest is so great because the community is kind of finding us and kind of they're already there. It's Outfest. The name is literally like come and see queer people make art. So
It's not hidden.
it's not, yeah, there's nothing nothing abstract about that. But that's when I met you, Kenny, actually at the Outfest, like it was like an
The
intro.
launch.
A launch, yeah,
Yeah.
met at the launch, and I saw all these incredible artists, spoken word artists, writers, producers, all of these incredible people, and I just felt so chuffed to be one of them and to be chosen. Quite a compliment.
I also think the compliment goes both ways. And again, I guess, as an audience member, as a fan, and as
Mm.
someone who speaks to a lot of queer artists around, and I've had this what I love to refer to as a open, friendly dialogue. We will call it for diplomacy's sake. I've had this argument with especially DJs, especially
Oh,
people who are involved in radio, about
interesting.
why why do you need to position something as, a queer artist or a queer
Yeah.
music or a queer festival. To which I explained to them that because if you are, and again, this is not beating on anybody, it's just the truth of the where we live, how we live. If you are a white straight male, the
Mm.
world has always been there for you. You haven't never had to fight for representation or to have your voice heard.
Right.
You've been presented that way, and the stage has been yours. But when you haven't had a chance to have your music heard from your perspective, from your experience, your lived experience, even if it's just using same-sex pronouns, to talk about a love story, or to just say that you're a young queer kid trying to figure it out, when
Oh.
you've been stifled and never felt like you could do it, to actually feel like you can be recognized that way and be connected to your peers and your community in that way is so incredibly important that it shouldn't be about an argument. It shouldn't be about why. It should be about why hasn't it happened.
Oh, yes. Everything you say, I just want to like clap. Yes, I can't wait to listen to this podcast and be like, yes, Kenny, keep going. Um, and I think that's a beautiful point. There's so many like trans kids and like, even trans adults that are like, I know how to play music, I write my own songs, whatever. I just don't think I'm really good enough. I don't know how to play that well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, I know what I know. I know my cowboy chords. I know how to rhyme stuff. The difference is that I just don't care.
Yeah.
I'm I'm like, I have these things. Luckily, I have Aaron, who is my white cis man who helps me get into the doors 100%. But most of the time, I am like, I am a trans person that's writing trans music. You listen to it, you like it, or you don't. Instead of wanting to be, I don't know, this massive big thing, I just put it out and I'm like, okay, it might not be your thing, and it might be, too quote unquote simple for you. It could be too radical, it could be whatever. But I'm an artist. I just put it out. I don't know why it always has to be such a thing. I think that art can be so simple. It can be accessible. It doesn't have to be this massive golden thing that's so untouchable. Like anybody can do it, but for some reason, the industry makes you feel like you're not good enough ever.
I will pull out the band-aid a little bit and I'll say there is a reason. And I think part of that reason is that there is a fear on some folks of losing some sense of authority or control or power, I will say. And I think that it comes back to not necessarily that's how people feel about things, but about if you can keep somebody down,
Yeah.
they won't be able to stand up to take from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's putting an assumption on the person that they even want to take from you. They're of something. They're not taking hasn't even typically come into the conversation or the concept. They're just trying to be a part of it. And it's this weird kind of we see it so much in the art world. We see it so much in music that there's this is the rigid way it must be for it to be successful or it to be valued, which is complete bullshit. It really comes down to what you enjoy and what you hear.
Yeah.
A lot of the times what you're writing about, if you listen, you may pick up on things, but even if you do, does it affect you in any kind of negative way? No. Is the melody there? Yes. Is the production there? Yes. Does it sound good? It sounds amazing. What's your problem?
Great. What is your problem? Exactly. And it's funny because our songs are on big platforms. Like right now we're on the CBC Top 20, and even the CBC Top 20 song, "A Friend," is about a queer polyamorous heartbreak. And like these things that the mainstream don't necessarily know, but the queer kids know.
Yeah.
It's the best. I love putting queer music into the mainstream, even so subtly.
And I think too, and I think what you're talking about is very important because they do get it. They do know it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I mean, people will say that, oh, you're exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's transformative and it can be life-saving, because the amount of challenges that any queer person experiences is at various different levels. But when you talk about the trans community, it is at an all-time high level. Those kids, knowing that an Art Ross is out there singing about experiences that they experience, getting through them, gives them hope, gives them validity to who they are as people.
Yeah. It's
transformative, and it can be life-saving. It really, really can. To which I would say to anybody who is, an outlier or against or anti whatever, it's like, again, what's your problem? It's not necessarily for you. You can embrace it. You can enjoy it. But it's been created, and who it really is resonating with, those people need it. So...
Yeah, and I think also going off that, thank you for saying such beautiful things. Oh my gosh. A couple of years ago, we were playing at Reeperbahn Festival in Germany. And on stage, I was like, I think I said a really passing comment about being non-binary. And this guy came up after my set and he was like, thank you for saying that. My kid just said that they were non-binary, and I've never met another non-binary person. And I didn't even know that they were out in the public, successful, doing things, making art, having jobs, whatever. And there was something really beautiful about that. I mean, I'm very lucky that I get to go up on stage and I get to be like, we exist and we're doing great. And we can make music and we can be good people. And I think that's some of the fear that a lot of people, like a lot of haters have. I don't think a lot of haters have ever met non-binary or trans people. And so to think like, there are maybe some haters that listening to CBC and they like my music. And then I'm like, well, it's like we're actually okay. We're not harmful, you know?
There's a real strange, and when you kind of go back to that, even if they have met, I think that there's some pre-existing thoughts or ideas of what a group of people are, and because they haven't done, and a lot of the fault does lie on us as a society, on government, on education, and the lack of it. The
Mm.
lack of education, true education, and the truthfulness about what things are. That
Yeah.
is a challenge all of its own. We see that very much these days. But, as a society, we've also not taken the cues to go and do our own education, to know
Yeah.
and to understand more.
Yep.
So we need to be better that way.
Mm-hmm.
When you have kids, and I always think about that, because as growing up, I didn't grow up queer. I didn't even know what it was. And I always joke with friends, and I said, to me, gay, there was 10 people, they all lived in Toronto, because I was in rural New Brunswick. uh,
Oh.
but it was the education wasn't there, and the concept of it being a much larger population wasn't really there. And it was always about something that was so mysterious or strange. And it
Ooh.
couldn't be you, because you weren't mysterious or strange until you got the chance to become mysterious and strange
You
sometimes.
do hockey. You can't
Yeah.
gay. Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm such an advocate, especially for music video too, because music video growing up in the
Yeah.
80s, right,
Oh, yes.
was amazing.
I
And
miss it.
now when you see a
Yeah.
music video and you can actually see queer love in a music
Oh,
video, it
yeah.
changes
Mm.
so much. It changes things so much. It brings things into perspective. And it's so great for those folks who are just glued to YouTube.
Mm-mm.
But having artists like yourselves who are now traveling the world, and congratulations, because I think that you folks have been, even though we know that lots of artists get out there around the world, I think
Yeah.
that the impact that you make in the areas that you hit, I know I hear about it
Thank you.
when people will tell me in other areas like the UK that,
Awesome.
oh, got a chance to check out or heard, and I knew that they were coming through. And I was
Mm.
like, I'm always very, excited by that. It's like, now go listen to more, folks.
Oh.
But I think that you're making that impact. And I think that that carries a lot of weight with it, because I think, not to, put too much on your shoulders, I just think that you're creating a world of safety,
Mm.
and in music that is that can resonate with so many different kinds of people, and they don't have to be queer.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that is incredibly important, what work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's funny when we've traveled so much. We've been so lucky. Shout out to Music Nova Scotia. Love you. Helps us through everything. They're incredible. Every time that we go to another city, place, whatever show we do, both a representative of Canada and of queer LGBTQ. And Canada, most of the time, people are like, yes, love you. Especially Germany. Germans absolutely love us. Amazing. UK, they're just happy that we're not American. It's nice. But there were some times where I told Aaron, I was like, I can't play here anymore. I don't want to do it. As a trans person, and as kind of a, I'm starting to also present more non-binary. At the start of Pillow Fight, I definitely wasn't as open because I was so worried about about having less opportunities because I looked trans or something. But now, I'm open about it, and I'm very happy about looking a little bit more androgynous, but it does take off. It takes away a lot of opportunities for us. We've decided, we can't go to rural places. It's not for us. And that also limits a lot of countries, and
Mhm.
limits a lot of places. And that sucks because there are lots of great fans and maybe some queer kids that would love to see us. But because I need to think about my safety and Aaron's safety, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. We just did we did a 2-month tour. We started in Germany, and then we went to Belgium, we went to England, and then we went to America for a month. And we left at the end of October. And then it was kind of like, when you walk away from a car that's about to blow up. And even in the climate that hadn't changed too drastically yet, I felt so much worry all of the time. And at that point, I was like, am I doing what I'm meant to be doing in music? If I don't feel very safe and I don't feel like anybody there really knows me and cares about me and really respects me, like, what am I doing here? So it's nice now how I can choose what I do as a queer person, but it's really sad to limit opportunities.
Absolutely. Especially because you know that even though that space does not feel very welcoming, you know that potentially there are individuals in that space who do welcome you and who will take things from you. But it does have to be a decision, right? Like, we'd love to say that we're in the 21st century, we're so much more progressive.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
like, oh no, we're in 1930s again. It's
Oh,
the way that things change and move around. And I think that's one of the great things about technology, is being able to kind of do things like this and be able to kind of bring this out there and have people in spaces who can't access regularly, but through the internet and through, podcasting and that kind of thing, can hear things, can discover music, can discover artists and follow them that way without, having to kind of put themselves in situations. But it does limit you. And that in itself is sad, but also I guess in some sense, it must be empowering to you to be able to say, yeah, I can make this change and I can make this choice and park that in the back of my head a bit, right? And maybe go and create out of
yeah.
that challenge.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of artists probably have this where, we're doing this as a job, but we also really have to like it.
Yeah.
I'm not just making music and going on stage because I need the money. I mean, if that was the case, it would be a different life. But, we have to enjoy it. And for the queer artists that I know, like, we have to be almost extra, we have to have extra boundaries. We have to be, every venue that we get booked at, I have to look them up. I have to make sure that they, have some kind of community there. It's kind of a privilege for cis straight artists to not even have to worry about anything like that. But when you're a little bit different, you got to make sure that you're safe in those places. And luckily, there's an incredible organization, Better Backstages, that are just trying to help venues with being better, being more representative, being more inclusive. So I think it's slowly getting better, but it's not fast enough. We're touring musicians, and we have to have safe spaces now.
Yeah, I know, and I agree, and I think that and I know Better Backstages, and they recently had brought some people together to talk about these kinds of things, and I think that that's the work that it's so strange in this world. I again go back to the what's your problem, or it doesn't really impact you the same way that you think that it's going to impact you. Talking about these things isn't about making work for somebody because it's a flight of fancy. It's about doing the folks who are getting involved in things like this to come up with and talk about it, to create a space for folks to be able to feel like they can actually speak and be honest about things and take that to others. That is a lot of hard work, even to get to the point where you're trying to make change in the backstage. So even before you get to that, you have people on another side kind of going, oh, here we go again. It's like, it really doesn't impact you or affect you because you are already safe. You're already in a better backstage. What we're saying is these folks need a better backstage like you have. That's all we're saying.
Well, they're not allowed one. That's so dumb. No.
It's just, it is almost absurd the way that things happen. But you mentioned CBC and the fact that a friend is currently charting on CBC.
Yes,
so I think
yes.
we should take a listen to a friend right now.
Great idea.
We do need to talk a little bit about music, and we're going to do that in just a second. So for now, here is A Friend by Pillow Fight.
Keep yourself busy. Most
And we are back here on Out Loud. We are still chatting with Art Ross from Pillow Fight. You just had a
Hi.
chance to hear a friend, and we're going to get into some music chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Because yes, no, December. December is when you released the album.
October.
October, I was right the first.
Yeah, yeah.
Hard Feelings, Soft Promises,
That's the one.
and full album. And after releasing a number of singles and kind of building up to it, the album came out, and I mean, start to finish, you first of all, you have to feel good about it. I would hope so, because I know as a fan and as an audience member and as a listener, it is a great, what I would call soft, casual roller coaster, because it takes you up and down, takes you to some different places. And there's you can listen to it start to finish and never want to skip anything. And I think that, to me, is such a hard challenge, because some of what you have on the album, guaranteed, I'm sure, is probably for you. Not thinking about like, will people love this? It's part of what you're creating, but it works. It works in there. And even when you kind of step out to the side a little bit, I love hacks. Like, I love hacks.
Thank you.
So much.
Hacks too. Nice.
And when you step out from the side onto the side a little bit, right, it still works, and it still kind of hooks you around the corner and then back onto the track, and feel that you must feel good about it.
Thank you. It's something that we are not very good at. Aaron and I are always just, we make something and then we're just into the next thing. And it's so bad. We really need to sit down and be like, we've toured all these countries. We have a record that's really good. We worked with all these people, blah, blah. We just rarely have moments like that, but we should have more for sure. I think in the music industry, we need external validation all the time. And so for me, I knew that I had a good record and we made something beautiful when people gave me validation about it. And like, just hearing from you that you really liked it and you didn't skip anything, like that makes me feel awesome. I think it's hard sometimes as a musician to have that reflection. Sometimes we're just really, really hard on ourselves. Sometimes we're so mean to ourselves. Like when the record came out, I was just like, I hope the people like it. If they don't, no worries. But like, it could be bad. Maybe it sucks. I don't know.
I think that too, the way that the industry currently works and operates doesn't help you, because streaming, and I talked to who's also at Outfest, Freya Milliken, talked to Freya a little bit about this, about how the change from what used to be, we go to a show, we get our CD, we get it signed, to streams, has really changed things. And one of the things I've seen, which I appreciate you did not do, is that we get all of these singles, and then the album becomes just the collection and maybe an extra one, because the way streaming kind of works now. But that's not how this worked. There was a few that were up front, like you used to get. There was a couple of singles, 3 maybe at the most, and then the album releases and you get to hear the rest of it. That is in itself just pure joy as a music lover, because I want to know where, what were we being led to? What was the, what's the payoff? It's like, what's coming next? And I love that, but I do think that the way that things work now challenges you, because there's this weird hamster wheel that musicians are being put on to spin, deliver, without any kind of concept or with any kind of like framework of what it is that you're trying to create.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think the demise of musicians these days is numbers. And also just like hitting the goalposts of all these things that we're meant to do is definitely something that's really bad for musicians. I think back to like a few years ago when we started Pillow Fight, and I had never done music before. I mean, I had a couple of songs that I had written when I was like 15, but other than that, I hadn't really written a song, recorded it until I met Aaron. And I think at that moment, I had no idea about the music industry. I had no idea how to make a single, how to promote it, the timeline, what distribution was. I didn't know what mixing and mastering is. To be honest, I still don't really know. Anyway, but the point is that the point is that we're so lucky that neither of us really care about hitting those, popularized goalposts. We don't really care about the streams. Of course, we love seeing where our song goes to, the demographics and stuff. But I think as artists, we need to be artists. We're not business people necessarily. We're artists. We're here to like make music and hopefully someone likes it. But I'm not going to obsess over social media and streams because I think it would actually change the art that I make. And I think that's something like I feel kind of bad for people nowadays who make music and who are really obsessed with it because I just think that you should make weird stuff and then hopefully someone likes it. And if two people like it, that's enough.
You are hitting something that I think some artists that I've spoken to really get. And even myself as a listener, I've, talked to artists where I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what I just listened to, but I dig it. I'm like, I get where you're going with it, and I love the creativity that's in there. I don't know where it comes from or what exactly I would classify it as, but I don't think I need to. And there's a real sense of like freedom, I think, in that when as an artist, you are kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It could have 2 streams, it could have 22 streams, 220 streams, but here's what it is. And this is what we put out because this is what we were feeling at that moment. And you know that maybe the mass majority might not get it or be like, okay, but you know that some people are, and those people who get it really get it.
Oh, they get it.
And
And
that's
they
gold.
will just keep coming back and like those the kind of fans that are just like, I've been with you from the beginning. I barely know you at all, but your music is just like, yeah, those people, that's why I want to make music. I want to make music so that I can express myself completely freely and that someone would get it. That's amazing. And if it's one person and not 1,000, much better.
I think that, when they do get it, that's a little bit like lightning in a bottle for that person too, because a lot of the times if they get it and a lot of other people may not get it, I think that they feel heard and seen because there's probably things about them that they don't actually hear in other music that suddenly when they do hear it, it's like, yes, I do exist beyond, my own self. Somebody else thinks this way. Somebody else creates this way. And I think that is, validating on its own for an audience member. And I think that connection between artist and audiences, I wish you could take it and get snapshots of it because the moment that, an artist releases something and it's like, I'm giving you this, I'm not sure what you're going to how you're going to embrace it, to the audience member who goes, my God, I'm transformed, right?
Yeah.
If you could snapshot that, my God, that in itself would be art.
Oh, if only. Well, I mean, nice little plug for Outfest. There's something about live music that you can only get it in that moment, regardless of if you can record it on your phone or whatever. That moment between the artist and the audience in that exact time, in that exact venue, in that exact, that is perfection and it's magic. And therefore, you should all come to the Carlton for Outfest. Anyway, it's gonna be great.
It's very true. And again, I talk about this a lot to a lot of folks where there's a reason why things are marketable and sellable commercially wise when you put it down and you spend all of the time, you take months and months and months to make sure it's exactly how you want it to sound and that kind of thing. 100% that is in its own self a science and an art kind of form. But when you have somebody in front of you and the music is happening, it's being played live, there's little mistakes, or not even mistakes, but little change ups in things. And to me, I often go to a live show and then not want to hear the actual recorded version because the emotional connection that I've gotten from a live piece of music is so much, I carry that with me. And then I'll listen back to the song and I'm kind of like, yeah, but you got to hear it live. And you when people say that, they truly mean it. It's like you like that song, you got to hear it live.
Oh yeah.
That's the magic right there.
Absolutely. And we're so lucky that a lot of our songs have drums and, you know, electric guitar and whatever. And we usually do shows just duo, just me and Aaron, two acoustic guitars. We strip down all of our songs into just like the bare bones. And a lot of people are like, I will never, yeah, I can't listen to this again and again because it's not on Spotify. So I can only listen to it when we're in your city, which is great.
For yourself, who out there inspires you? Like, who are you listening to, even like from the queer realm of music, that you kind of listen to and kind of go like, yeah, you
Yeah.
got that down.
Um, I'd say I'd say that there's three pockets of people that kind of really fuel me. The first one is the local musicians in Halifax. I listen to like I have a playlist with all of the new music in Halifax, so that's really helpful. I love listening to what we're doing. Just we live quite similar lives. I want to know the incredible stuff that they make. The second one, I think I get a lot of my confidence from like openly queer, incredible musicians. I'm so obsessed with Doechii right now.
Oh,
Just like I watch her perform and I'm like, okay, I'm picking up on like the confidence, eye contact, like the way that someone positions themselves, the way that their voice is, the banter, things like that. That's really inspirational as well. And then obviously you look at like Ray Spoon, Tegan and Sarah, and seeing just what they're doing that's like culturally cool. And I'm like, okay, so they have like this weird thing going on. Maybe I could mimic something like that. Yeah. So it's a collection.
it's a good collection. Like
Yeah.
that's not a bad collection of influences to have. Ray Spoon, of course, is you
Mhm.
know at the like iconic
Mhm.
in especially I would say in non-mainstream underground kind of like alternative style of music and how to deliver it. Tegan and Sarah, of course, obviously, just mainstreams in or mainstays in the queer realm, and again culturally both, and a
Yeah.
lot of different artists moving from music, keeping the music still happening, but also branching out into how they can affect change in different ways
Yeah.
is incredible to watch.
Absolutely. I just don't understand. Maybe it's a privilege thing. I just don't understand the kind of artists that don't use their platform for representation and to collect community. And if you know, you know, I guess, but I just think we're at this time politically where we need people to represent. We need to start conversations with our music and with ourselves on stage more than
I
ever.
and I think that we're back around to, I mean, to date myself even further, to that time where when we saw our Live Aids and Farm Aids, and I think about Sun City and the apartheid movement and what music did, and who kind of came out from all different countries to talk about apartheid and what was happening in South Africa. And I think we're back to some of that again, where music and our musicians have such a strong voice that the ability to use it in a change format and be change makers through art, we're back there again. And I don't think the doors ever should have been shut. I don't think they were. I think it's just out of sight, out of mind in a little bit of way.
Sure.
um but I think we're now back to that where it's like, no, we need those change makers, we need those voices,
Yeah.
and siloing can't be part of the move forward, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
I completely agree. I look at someone like Chapel Rowan and like while maybe I'm not such a big fan of her music, whatever, but just the fact that she's on this massive platform, maybe making people kinder, like, yeah, go do it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and being honest about what you're experiencing, who you are as a person, that you're experiencing a lot of different things really quickly, really fast, and it's having sometimes negative impact on you. And that's okay, because you know what? It's okay to speak about those things, just like it's okay to speak about all the things we feel on a daily basis.
Mm-mm.
It's good to see. And I think that if anything, whether or not you love the music, that is separate. It may not be your jam. That's okay. You know,
Mm-mm.
I will say, you mentioned Doechii, and when I watched the Grammys, and
Yeah.
I don't usually, but there was a lot happening at the Grammys this year, and a
Oh, yeah.
lot of different faces that you don't often see. And Doechii came out, and first of all, I will say that outfit, everything Doechii was wearing, that militaristic type
Oh, yeah. The
style,
uniform.
the uniform type thing, I was like, hit it, hit it. I was like, there was so much from the beginning of it that I was just kind of like, this is a different world that the Grammys have needed,
Yeah.
and this can't go away. This has to stay. This is what music is. You know, fashion has always
Yeah.
been part of it, but it is expression in a very different way than we've seen in the past. It wasn't necessarily just for the
Mm-mm.
flounce of it. It
Yeah.
was like, this is me, and
Mm.
I'm not gonna back away from this. So I appreciated that.
But I
Um,
think it's so interesting how, uh, like, we consume so much music and media. We've seen it all. We look at our phones all the time. We have to be up on the pop culture and everything. And yet, musicians still surprise me. Songs still surprise me. There's things where I'm like, I would never have thought of that. That's amazing. Even though it's the same four chords, but it's like, that is incredible the way that it was made. I think that it makes me feel like music is so magical, you know?
I used to say that, and I still feel this way because, you know, when you go to here in Nova Scotia, you go to Music Week, you get
Yeah,
a chance to experience a very wide variety
definitely.
of music. I know Canada, if other people in Canada and other people in the rest of the world, I'm sure you probably think it's always about a fiddle and a guitar, but it's not. There is so much really interesting music that's being created. The more indigenous culture that gets weaved into things, the more that there's
Yes.
queer people on stage, it
Mm-mm.
becomes different. The more that our actual hip hop community gets a chance to be out there, it changes everything. And I think that I think that there's some folks who still want to hold on to that small box of this is what, you know, Nova Scotia is, or what Atlantic Canadian sound is.
Yeah.
And there's so many people outside of that kind of going, but no, it can be this as well. And it can
Oh,
be this, and it
oh
can be
yeah.
this.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's freaky just how exciting and how like just electrifying it can be
Yeah.
when you make room for it all and you give space. And I'm
Oh,
like, there's some cool things that happen here and that people would not believe it was from here.
isn't that wild? But then they go to Music Week and we're like, yeah, we're actually really good at stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can actually do some things. Hey, you need some techno? We got that too.
Yeah.
Hey, have you met Kitty Bass? Great DJ.
Oh my God. Great DJ. Yeah. I think I
I'm
might,
in I was going to say I'm in loving some of the new stuff, and I've been
yeah.
absolutely enthralled with the Salt Lamp duo.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and that again, that sound coming out of, you know, a couple being there from different kinds of maybe walks of life and
Mm.
backgrounds and styles, creating something really cool and really earthy that I love.
It's so authentic and it's so like that's a perfect example of a band that's just like doing it. Just
Yeah.
like not even thinking about what if people like it, if people don't like it, should I do, you know, what everybody else is doing? And then they make this like very real sound that I think people really like.
What does Pillow Fight have in store for us in the future? Because now, not that we want you to put out an album right away, because you just put one out in October. I know you got to give some time to have decompression time and whatnot. But what are you
Yeah.
working on? What's happening out there
Hmm.
that you can say? I guess.
Okay, I can tell you some secrets, no problem. Um, we've been working on this song called Laundromats, and it's kind of my ode to how my friends are just politically really struggling. and I'm really excited about it. It's going to be this kind of, I've been writing more like kind of Midwest emo type of riffs and having like a nice uniform beat, like in Gigi Perez, her incredible shit. She's really inspired me to, yeah, to kind of change up my strumming pattern and be a little bit like I don't know, more like forceful with my voice. So it's kind of nice as a musician to pick up little things that I like from other people and then like implement them. Obviously not copy them, just be influenced by them. But Aaron and I actually, after a couple months on the road, we just needed to like look after ourselves. It
Yeah.
was, you know, I think as musicians, it's okay to be like, that was a lot. That was a lot. Maybe next time we'll do something different. It was incredible. I'm very, very lucky to be, you know, able-bodied and childless to go and frolic around the world for a couple of months. But it also takes a toll on your mental health. Absolutely. So Aaron and I decided that we were going to take a good chunk of time to just reevaluate, see what's going on, see how the album plays out. We have a couple of shows coming up in the summer, and then I think we're going to start planning for 2026. We want to go back to Europe, maybe make another record, but it's hard to plan anything. Sometimes if I'm, you know, if I'm going through something really massive, I could totally make enough lyrics for a whole record. If I'm maybe a little more bored or a little happier, which is harder to write, I can't squeeze out any songs. So if my mental health is maybe a little unstable, you'll be seeing a record sooner than you think.
Where have you not been that you would like to get to, like in terms of like around the world? Because you've been able to be out there, but is
Yeah.
there any destinations you're like, that has to be on the bucket list?
Yeah. I would, it's such a dream, and I doubt it's going to happen anytime soon, but I would love to do some shows in Asia, South Korea, Japan, China. I don't think they would because we talk a lot about weed and gay sex. So I don't think, because you have to get a visa, and they go through your whole social media, and I don't think it's going to happen. But I see artists that are branching out more east, and I would absolutely love to do that. I see that on Spotify, you can see the demographic and you can see where people are listening. And we do have some listeners in Japan. And so maybe someone would come to our show.
I think you would be shocked and surprised because I think Japan is an area, social media wise, is maybe kind of maybe quiet. In terms, they find their things in different ways, but I
Yeah.
find that when it comes to they love Western culture and they love to support it. I think that you'd be surprised just how many people would kind of come out. But I think Asia is a real interesting spot.
Hope so.
And we all we hear about these days is things like tariffs and tariffs and tariffs and whatnot. And one of the things that has always been a challenge for Canadian artists is to cross into the United States, and the
Yeah.
challenges in terms of like what it costs to be able to play and be able to tour through there. And it doesn't look like that's going to get any better anytime soon, but I'm hoping that what it will do is have folks take a step back and think about the power of music and when it's no longer available to you as it once was, in terms of like outside of your own world and the things you want to see, that maybe it may make change for the future to make things a little bit more accessible. I would love to see something like that happen. We as Canadians love to make things accessible, but the reverse does not necessarily always happen.
Yeah, yeah. I really hope so. I really loved touring in America. There were lots of incredible people and cities, and I feel like that's something that maybe artists don't recognize, that while America is massive, and sure there's lots of strange politics and whatever, there are so many incredible people. There are so many fans that would love your music, and I don't want anybody to be discouraged about the States. You should be cautious, of course, but there are people who would love to hear.
More so than I think that you see, because as we know, it is staggered very purposely as to what the actual viewer sees, what comes through. And people need to be smarter about what they're believing, smarter about how they're getting their news and their reality.
Yeah.
That's just something we all have to be better at, because we know at this point things are not real the way that they're being presented. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well
that
said.
could be a whole episode all of its own.
That's episode 2.
Yes. Well, we'll have to do this again, because I feel like there's still so much more to dive into. I'm excited for the fact that you're going to be playing Outfest. I'm also excited that there's going to be more shows. I'm excited for the potential of new music in the future. But I just think that, and I fanboy quite a bit, and I do gush, and sometimes I can go overboard, but hopefully people realize it comes from a place of just pure, just adoration. That I think that what you represent, how you represent, the music that you create, the things that you're doing are really important. And whether or not you hear it enough, I must say to you, it is very important. And I know it's important to others who are out there as well.
Thank you so much for saying so. It's kind of hard sometimes, as much as we talk about how wonderful our community is, which it 100% is, and we make incredible art. There is a lot of competition, and there is a lot of, we have small resources in this city, in this province. If you don't get a show and somebody else gets a show, then it definitely does spark emotions. So hearing that we are, doing a good job is always very welcomed. Thank you very much.
You are quite welcome. And I would say that and I always love to make this point, if you're out there and you're listening and you are from the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, get to know your artists in your community. I'm not saying stop loving your Taylor Swifts. I'm not saying stop loving your Ariana Grandes. What I'm saying is find musicians and artists in the queer community that you are a part of, and love them just as much, because they need your support.
100%. Please. We need it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me. And I feel like this has to be part 1. I feel like this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I think there's so much more to dive into. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time out and spending it with me.
Oh my gosh, Kenny, thank you so much for having this platform. It's an absolute pleasure to chat with you. I'm excited to chat more off podcasts, so we could just keep going for like 4 or 5 hours.
We got a chance at the very, very beginning of the show. I played a little Hacks because it's a favorite of mine. But I think we need to also check out another little song called More of That. And that is what we're going to go out with. But until then, thank you so much, Art.
Goodbye. Thanks, Kenny.
If I only to love.